My name is Andrew Higgins. I'm a small-time detective based out of Greenwich. It's a small town in North Texas with a population of about 5,000 people. I moved from Houston to honestly get a break from all the noise, the crime, and that damn god-awful traffic. I thought Greenwich would be a nice change in pace. However, I've come to discover a small detail about the town and its people. Suffice to say, I won't be staying here anymore. There's something very strange going on within this small town, and perhaps it branches off into the entire world. I had moved to Greenwich about 6 months ago. To my surprise, aside from a couple of tickets, it has been an extremely peaceful town. It was without a doubt the least stressed I've been since I was a little kid. Unlike my old job in the big city, there were no surprise phone calls, no annoying neighbor disputes to respond to, but instead, there was a general sense of tranquility and peace here. Everyone smiled at one another and got along, which made my job as a detective that much easier. However, that all changed. 2 days ago, on October 27th, I responded to a 911 distress call. In a bigger police department, patrol officers would be the ones that typically respond to calls like these, but since our police force consisted of about 10 people, I typically responded to calls outside of my typical detective duties. The individual that called kept repeating the words, "They can't hurt me if I can't see them." I thought I was dealing with an unstable individual that may have been on a bad trip, under the influence, or perhaps just mentally unwell. However, when I arrived at the scene of the crime, I found the individual laying unconscious with a pool of blood surrounding his head, and to find that he was grasping a fork caked in blood. I ran to the body and checked for a pulse, and to my surprise, there was still a very faint pulse. 11:41, I need EMS on scene at 7321 Highland Ridge.
10-4, EMS has been notified and dispatched to your location.
The next thought that came to mind was to find where the blood was coming from, and to try my best to slow it down or stop it. This individual was laying face flat, and it was when I slowly turned him onto his back that I saw where all the blood was coming from. Both of his eyes were missing, replaced with just red tissue and broken skin. It's been a while since I've seen something this grisly. I backed away in a moment of shock. I'm brought back to reality when the man begins to speak. I know what you've done. I won't let you take me." "Sir, are you okay?" The man looks in my direction and pauses for a moment, almost as though I wasn't who he was expecting. He then says, "Leave while you still can. Don't let them take you." He loses consciousness, this time for good. The EMS would arrive on scene just a minute later and would pronounce him dead, leaving me perplexed about this man's death. In addition, 2 days later, after having the body sent to our medical examiner, who performed an autopsy and concluded that the wounds were self-inflicted, something about this case rubbed me the wrong way. Perhaps it was just the inner detective in me, but I felt a need to investigate this further, rather than ruling this subject as senile. Despite the sheriff telling me to let it go, I did a little digging. The subject's name was William Hartford. He was 47 years old, divorced, and had no run-ins with the law, besides the speeding ticket that he got a few years ago. I went by his house and looked for anything that looked suspicious. Though I didn't find anything that was cause for alarm, I found something else that piqued my interest. William Hartford had several pictures of his daughter in his home office. From the time she was young to the time she was older, he seemed to be very proud of her and she of him. Why would an individual so involved in his daughter's life suddenly end it all and in the process hurt his daughter? However, what added even further suspicion was that William had a small calendar which he used rather often. The date of October 30th caught my eye. On it, he had written, "Attend my daughter's wedding." This was definitely not a man who had planned on killing himself. So the question was, what drove him to do it? Upon reading this, I hear a creak on the floorboards behind me. I turn around and draw my weapon. I'm barely able to make out a silhouette running away. "Hey, freeze!" I say as I chase after it. The door to the house was left wide open. I ran out, but there was no one there. Quickly, I ran back into the house, shut the door, and slowly checked every room. However, no one was there. Whoever it was gone. Strange. I hop into my vehicle and give the sheriff, Sheriff Adams, a call.
"What's up, Andrew? Tell me something good."
Get this, the man from a couple days ago, William Hartford, was planning to go to his daughter's wedding on the 30th. Tell me, why would a man planning to go to his daughter's wedding kill himself so close to what's supposed to be his daughter's happiest moments? You'd think he'd want to witness that. Something stinks here. I don't know what it is, but I wanted to let you know that I'll be looking more into this case.
Jesus, Andrew, I told you to tell me something good. But I can't argue with you there. If you want to keep looking deeper into this, go right ahead. Who knows, maybe this guy just has skeletons buried in his closet. Maybe ones his family would be better off not knowing about.
I think we may owe it to them to definitively say this was a suicide. I would think they may find some sort of comfort in that. Speaking of which, I may want to speak with them. You know where I can find them? The chief is quiet for a moment, then answers back.
Yeah, I think they're currently attending the funeral. Should be able to find them there.
I did just that. An hour later, I was stood in front of the entrance to the only cemetery within Greenwich. I had an umbrella shielding me from the rain, which had started to pour down with more ferocity as the day went by, as if Greenwich had been weeping, mourning the loss of a resident. Finally, once the funeral was over, I watched as the wife and daughter made their way towards me. I approached them, giving up my umbrella to shield them from the rain. "My name is Detective Andrew. I responded to the call from William. I'm currently investigating his death. If it's okay, I had a few questions to ask." The daughter looks at the mother and nods her head. "It's okay, Mom. I'll speak to the detective. Wait for me in the car. I'll be right there," she said. I made note of her mother's demeanor. She looked tired and sad, telling by the bags under her eyes. She had been crying a lot. "Heather, right? Look, I'm sorry to come and disturb you at a time like this, but like I said, I'm doing some investigation on your father's case. You were close, were you not?" I asked, trying to be as respectful as possible. Unlike her mother, the daughter had no bags underneath her eyes, and although she did well to hide it, she was probably deeply saddened by his passing. "We were. He's always been a great father to me. Yeah, my mother and him had their disagreements and went through a divorce, but it ultimately brought us closer in a way. It's sad that he just killed himself, especially in the way that he did. My mother always said he dealt with depression, but never did seek for any help. I guess it just finally caught up to him. Unless you think there's something else at play here, I must be right, since you're investigating what was deemed a suicide." in that moment. Something about her response threw me off. The way she spoke about it, without shedding a tear, without the look of hurt in her eyes. I just wasn't expecting that. Though it threw me for a short loop, I didn't think too much of it. Everyone mourns in their own way, and perhaps Heather mourns behind closed doors. That is certainly a possibility. Your cooperation would help me rule out or confirm our suspicions. Is there anything that he may have mentioned or any signs that he was in trouble? Something that could point me in the right direction? Heather frowns. Immediately I know that she knows something. My father was an extremely caring person. He would always volunteer at soup kitchens, give money to the less fortunate, and just try and help as many people as possible. There was a man I saw one day at his house. It was my father's birthday, and I wanted to surprise him with a visit. He didn't know I would be there. I walked into the house, seeing them having a pretty heated conversation. Once my father saw that I was there, he immediately stopped mid-conversation. He introduced me to him, and him to me. His name was Ryan. Apparently, he volunteers at the same soup kitchen with my dad. At least that's what he told me. But I've gone to that soup kitchen multiple times, and I've never seen that man before. That was maybe 3 weeks ago. And every now and then, I would see him leaving my father's place. If anyone had anything to do with my father's sudden suicide, it was him. Thank you, Heather. I'll get to the bottom of this. Here's my card. Give me a call if you remember anything else. Oh, and who's the lucky man? I asked, trying to help her take her mind off her father and to the man she would be getting married to in the near future. Heather looks at me with a confused expression on her face. I think to myself, stupid. Why would you ask her about that here, today? I'm sorry. Who? She said. I thought her reply was strange, but again, didn't think too much of it. Instead, in my head, I blamed her odd response on her being in shock. Oh, nothing. Thank you for your cooperation. I hand Heather my card and decide to go back to William's home. The man Heather mentioned, Ryan, must be involved, and something told me that I had already run into him earlier this morning, and something told me he would be back. I made sure to park 5 houses down the street and use the DSLR camera with night vision to zoom in and monitor the house. The following events that occurred that night were truly draconian, otherworldly, and just didn't seem real. No matter how many times I've replayed it in my head, I can't make sense of it, of any of it. It was around the 2-hour mark, and I had finally seen movement at the front of the house. Someone dressed in a black hoodie had lifted the yellow tape surrounding the house and entered the premises. Once they were in the house, I immediately exit my vehicle and draw my gun. Upon entering the house, the hooded figure was standing directly in front of me, looking at me. I pointed my weapon at him and made sure to shine my flashlight into his eyes. Freeze! Stay right where you are. I'm unarmed and I'm on your side. You were the one here this morning, weren't you? An innocent person doesn't run from the police. I slapped some handcuffs onto him. Look, I had to make sure you weren't one of them. You're making a big mistake. I'm on your side. Yeah? Just like William was on your side, huh? You're under arrest for trespassing and for possible connection to the death of William Hartford. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. If you can't afford one at this time, one will be appointed to you. Listen, I'm trying to warn you. Your life is in danger. Greenwich isn't the town you think it is. My name is Special Agent Ryan. I'm with the FBI. Look, I've got my badge in my back pocket. Take a look and see for yourself. I hesitate at first, but I then stand Ryan up. Reaching into his back pocket, I take out his wallet. Inside was his badge. You and I may be the only ones left in this town. If you turn me in, we're both going to end up like William. Uncuff me and I'll do my best to explain what the hell Greenwich is. I do as he says and uncuff the man. I wanted answers, and as suspicious as this guy seemed to be, it looked as though he had valuable information. After hearing him out, I decide whether to believe him or not. My name is Detective Andrew. I'm investigating William's alleged suicide. Since you're claiming to know so much, and since you're at the scene of the crime, tell me, what happened to William? William was my man on the inside. One of the few people in this town that are actually human. I look at Agent Ryan as though he were crazy. I should have kept the handcuffs on him. If you don't start making sense, you're gonna get back into these cuffs. That's just it. None of what I'm about to tell you makes any sense. It's like a damn Twilight Zone episode, and we're the freaking main characters. Greenwich is a town run by extraterrestrial beings. They're not beings you can see with the naked eye, but rather with infrared technology. And they kill and possess their hosts, which is damn near everyone in Greenwich, and they're starting to spread like wildfire. Here, Agent Ryan pulls out a pair of glasses and tosses them to me. Keep those. They look like regular glasses, but they have IR technology equipped into them. Put them on when you come across any resident of Greenwich and you'll see what I'm talking about. This is getting ridiculous. You really expect me to believe this load of crap? At that moment, we hear the sound of a shutting car door in the distance, followed by approaching footsteps. Whatever you do, leave Greenwich. I'll be in contact, Ryan says before leaving through the back sliding door of the house. In comes Sheriff Adams and other officers within our department. Why were they here? Hey Andrew, got a disturbance call from the neighbors. They said someone was snooping around. I figured it was you, but just wanted to be sure. You alone? Everything okay? Yeah, sorry. Just been stuck on this case, trying to find out anything out of the ordinary. And did you find anything out of the ordinary? Something about the sheriff's tone changed. It was almost as though he were someone else. No, nothing. It's a shame. He had a beautiful family. The sheriff and the officers walked past me and began to subtly search the house with their eyes, glancing here and there, seeing if there was anyone here with me. I take this opportunity to put on the glasses in which the agent gave me. Upon doing so, I look at the sheriff and the officers, all of which had the heat signatures double that of the average person. On top of that, the heat signatures took the form of something beyond that which the human words could describe, so I won't even try to tell you what I saw. All I can say is, it wasn't human. Somehow, I managed to hide my nervous energy and told the sheriff that I would no longer be investigating William's death. That very night, I drove as far away from the town as possible, with plans of never setting foot there again. I attempted to look up FBI agent Ryan, but couldn't find record of him anywhere. Days later, I would receive a phone call from him, recruiting me to help him investigate Greenwich. Though it took me time to think about it, I accepted. We've been staking out the town for about 2 months now, seeing them gather, seeing them turn people, and watching as they slowly grew in number Agent Ryan says that the FBI has known about them for some time now. Greenwich is only one town. Apparently, there are hundreds of other towns scattered around the US with these extraterrestrials, and they're growing in number. But still, they're not on the top of the list of priorities for the government. This got me wondering, if this isn't number 1 or even top 5 on their list, what is? What aren't they telling us? For anyone that's going on a road trip or just passing through random towns, be careful, stay safe out there, and stay vigilant.